Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In. We're brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Pleased to be joined by my good friend, my brother from another mother, Mark Ostrander. GT is en route to his laptop, so he'll be jumping on shortly. Marco, long time no see. How are you, man?
Good. How are you, David?
I'm good. I'm really good. Last weekend was the Missouri State Tournament, was the Iowa State Tournament. Not going to spend a lot of time on, we could talk an hour and a half about each of those tournaments. I know you got to go. I watched a ton of it remotely. I actually got to call Virginia Tech Friday night with Kristen Olenowski on ESPN and ACC Network. So that was a lot of fun. Did you see any of that duel?
I did not see that duel. I got to see a little bit of the North Carolina State, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And
Nebraska.
Nebraska, I got to watch. So
till your DVR ran out because we were talking about it.
I have a program where I can tape any wrestling meet that I have through DirecTV, and I've got ACC, I've got
Big Ten Network, Big 12 Network,
I've got quite a few of them, so it takes up a lot of room on my.
So people don't understand. You and I were wrestling dorks long before they gave us a podcast. So we would watch all this stuff and talk every Sunday night anyway. For people that don't know, we were doing the rankings on track. We were the first team to rank out to 25, and then the first team to rank out to 33. And the 25 was because there's only 8 guys that go 0-2, so 25 guys score. It also was good for teams that don't have as many ranked guys because they could be in the rankings. And 33 is good because, hey, just because our guy's ranked 32nd and he's projected to go 0-2, at least we have a projected guy in the tournament, and we all think our guy's better than everybody else does. So anyway, so shout out to Kristen Olenowski, shout out to Sean Fulton, shout out to Slammer, all those guys over there that helped get us on the air. Super professional guys. They put this program on my laptop, and this will show you how non-computer literate I am, but it basically was a soundboard on your laptop. So it was awesome. Like you could click and talk to the announcer or the producer rather, and off air, on air. Super cool. So those guys are really awesome.
Well, you're also doing the Big 12, and you're putting a crew together to do the mats there too, and all people that you know and have recruited to do this. And this is like your fourth year in a row?
Yeah, it's an awesome crew. So this year they allowed us to do 2-man crews. Last year it was 1-man crews on the mats, and Hardell and I doing the scramble cam, and I'll get to Hardell more. This year they're just doing mats. So, but they allowed me to put together a crew of 8, 2 to a group. And you and I have done play-by-play together at Beat the Street Chicago.
Yep.
Two-person crew is a lot better than one. If you're announcing, like, you get to bounce off somebody. If you miss something, the other person probably saw it. It's much more conversational. It's much better, I think, for the viewer. So I think there's just a bunch of things where it's better, Yep. So we've got Terry Pack, your guy, and his son Cody on a mat together.
Another one of my guys.
Yeah, exactly. And they're both my guys too, but not as much as yours.
No, they're my guys.
No, hey,
Cody,
they're my guys enough. I got them on. So
Cody grew up where I was coaching, and
I know.
So
yeah. I said there's levels, but they're still my guys. They're just not my guys. Chris Forbes from Tulsa and Brahman Creighton from out in California. Those guys are buddies from Nebraska, Omaha. They're going to do a mat together. Alex Steen from Tulsa and Brian Picklow from Mustang are going to do a mat together. And then Hardell Moore, the unofficial governor of Oklahoma, and myself are going to do a mat together. So the other big news is we're going to do another live show like we did, GT and I in Iowa. We're going to do one on Friday around 6:00 at Elgin Park Brewery. And it's going to be a big pregame Big 12 preview show. And we're going to get guests on from, I think right now we have Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Iowa State, and Missouri lined up. Okay. That's a very interesting tournament, man, because Oklahoma State's a defending champ. Oklahoma's a defending champ. Mizzou won the Big 12s the last time they were in it, and Iowa State won the regular season
this year.
Yeah, right. So I'm saying, like, it's one of the things we're going to do, and Alex Steen used to do this podcast with me. We're going to whiteboard the weight classes and then the seeds, and then see on paper, without bonus, without upsets, without injuries, who's favored. I don't even know who it is right now. I'm going to be very interested to see where it is. So next week, so people should know that next week, all we'll do is preview the conference tournaments, but we won't preview the Big 12 because we record this show on Thursday. I fly to Tulsa Thursday night, and then Friday I'll do that separate pregame show, and it's going to be on USA Wrestling's YouTube channel. And we think we got all the glitches worked out, so we're going to shoot our shot, try again. But that was a lot of fun, and I got headsets, so we're not going to be handing around microphones. So,
Awesome.
Hey, Mark, I told you this. Everything just gets better. It's the evolution. So.
It was still fun in Iowa City. I had a blast, and I thought it turned out really cool. So
it was awesome.
And a mic back and forth. It was still a lot of fun, and I think the people that were at the bar enjoyed it because they started really getting into it. So
yeah, and I think we're going to get invited back. I saw Chad Beatty at the bout at the ballpark, and he said it was well received. And Hawkeye Wrestling Club does a great job. You know, that's one of the fun things about this is getting to go across the country and talk to people from all different groups. And I had a guy this morning, he messaged me. His name is Drew Herbst. He just sends me a message and says, did you say you're going to do a live podcast at the Big 12s? And he goes, I'm Jarrett Dagan's father-in-law. He goes, I want to come. So like, just super cool. People are reaching out, you know, it's good to see that our reach is expanding. And shout to USA Wrestling for all the publicity. Joe Wedra has done a great job of doing it. Gary Abbott, Mike Willis, all the guys that get us on the air. So there's a big announcement here in St. Louis. I'm not even sure you saw this. Lindenwood University is going to Division I.
I did not see that.
Lindenwood University, where I think if it all goes according to non-COVID plans, I'll be the RTC coach this spring. The university is going to Division I. They have like 27 sports. I think they're going to cut it. I don't know if they're cutting any of them. 3 of them are already Division I. The school is going to go Division I. They went through this several years ago when they went from NAIA to D2. There's a 4-year blackout. I will just explain this very simply. The reason why there's a blackout is because there's different academic standards, different clearinghouses for NAIA to D2, D2 to D1. So they want to make sure that nobody gets grandfathered in, that gets to wrestle at a higher academic standard tournament that may not have made it. This is awesome for Division I wrestling. It's awesome they're in St. Charles. They're about 25 minutes from my house, but St. Louis, St. Charles area. Awesome for the state of Missouri. You're also going to see a bunch of kids in the portal that are young, that are at that school because they're never going to get to wrestle in the postseason. So it's going to be interesting to watch how all that turns out. But big news, anytime you're adding a Division I program, it's huge upside, you know, big thing. So I don't know if you have a lot to add to that, but I think it's
outstanding. Anytime you can add a Division I school in wrestling, obviously they had wrestling in Division II, and you hate to see Division II lose a school, but I mean, it's really a neat idea that they're going up to Division I. Any thoughts on Big 12?
I think they'll go in the MAC. They're in this Ohio Valley Conference where some of the other schools are. My guess is they'd go in the MAC. I actually feel like that's probably the best fit for them.
Agreed.
But obviously I'd love to see them in the Big 12, especially with our relationship there, you know, calling those meets and stuff like that.
Sure.
Before I forget, Matt Chad is out this week. Derek St. John came on. He's a super interesting guy, man. Like really, he's not your typical stereotype of an ex-Iowa wrestler. I'm not saying all ex-Iowa wrestlers are the same, but some people have a perception. He's a very different kind of guy communication-wise. So just he really well done. Dresser was great. Like I texted Dresser, I'm like, hey, I'd like to get St. John on. He's like, great idea. I thought I had St. John's number. I didn't. Sent it. 5 seconds later, St. John responds 2 minutes later. So great pot. I didn't
Good.
do a lot. Just threw up some decent questions and let him talk. So anyway, so a couple of other things. This next week, there's only one dual meet. So there will be no change in the rankings.
Yep.
Okay. These are the final regular season rankings. Okay. And we want to talk to GT about Yasser Dogu and about Koloff. So I'm also going to pull up, let's start here. These are the team rankings. Okay. These are the final regular season team rankings. And we tiered this last night. So shout out to Christian Thompson at fantasygrade.com for putting the individual rankings together. We have a team process here. He sends those to me. I look for duplicates, screen those out, and normally do the tiers. Then you update the tournament rankings. I do the reorg on the math. And so it's great that I used to have to do all three of those parts. It's very nice you guys are helping out. So I appreciate it. Okay, tier 1, Penn State, 124 points. I'm rounding. Iowa, 89. Tier 3, Michigan Air ASU, 74-66. Tier 3, Ohio State, 51. NC State, 48. Nebraska, 47. Iowa State, 43. Cornell, 42. Nebraska, big week. Schultz beats Warner. Labriola beats Kemmerer. Okay. Let's talk about that duel. You watched all the duel. You watched 9.5 matches. I can tell you what happened. Cassiope rode out Lance, so you didn't miss anything. So
Yeah.
I'm your wrestling.
David.
Sorry,
I didn't hit extend on when I taped it. My bad.
I'm your wrestling Twitter. So what did you think of the duel?
I thought it was a good duel. I thought, I wanted to see Max Murin, obviously, wrestle at 49 because I think that's could have put him in at the number 3 seed at the national, at the Big Ten conference. I think he'll be the number 4 seed now, which gives him probably Yaya in the quarters. But besides that, I thought it was great competition. I knew 174 through 197 was going to be a barn burner no matter what happened, because these guys are just so talented. Kemmer found somebody that can scramble with him on his level, and obviously Labriola can do that. And I really thought it was a well wrestled duel by both teams. I think both teams went there to wrestle. It was really nice to see Drake Ayala back on the mat. I thought, obviously he has some issues with the shoulder, wore the harness, but was still able to use that, lefty swing single that he does so well. He was able to use it, and he's incorporated a couple other things. So it was fun to see him wrestle again. DeSantos, except for the top 2 guys in that weight, David, he is just a beast. I mean, he just does not stop coming at you.
He feels like he's on his own tier too, right? Like RBY and Dayton are on a tier. I mean, maybe that's insulting to RBY. Maybe it's 1A, 1B, and then 2. But yeah. So, my thoughts were this. First of all, I don't pay enough attention to the dual meet score. Like, I'm just watching individual matches and my brain still goes to the rankings, right? How is this going to change? That duel was actually in the balance, right? Like, it came down to heavyweight. And, Venz with the pin made it super, made it close. That big body lock step. Nebraska's sneaky good. I think you picked them in your top 5 at the beginning of the year. I had Cornell. Nobody had Iowa State. So that's interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Schultz, we talked about 197, complete crapshoot, right? Like if you wrestle that tournament 7 times, probably 8 different guys would win it, and then 174, now you've got it in one source, we'll get to it, just, I think missed all the data this week. But so Labriola beats Kemmer, Hayden Hidley what a bipolar weekend. Gets pinned on Friday by Clay Lout, was beating him, and then gets pinned in a high flyer, cement mixer, Dylan Ness, whatever you want to call it, move. And then Sunday goes 1-1 in a match where really nothing happened till overtime. He gets Mekhi Lewis in the body lock or over under, not a lock, but over under, goes arm spin, which you never see. Doesn't work because the counters just turn your palm up. Mekhi didn't know the counter. He comes out the back, gets the takedown, and scores. So in the ACC, here's what people need to know about conference seedings. None of the other matches count, but your conference matches. So in that bracket, Lout beat Hidley, Hidley beat Mekhi, and Mekhi beat Lout. So that's going to be interesting. The other thing, and we'll go to the individual rankings. Let's jump to 74, and then we'll come back because we were talking about this. So if you look at this here, like if you look at Win, and I love those guys, but they have Kemmer at 2, Mekhi at 3, Hidley at 4, Massa at 5, and Labs at 6.
Yeah.
That's wrong. You know,
Well,
I
think they forgot to do 74. I think they just, for some reason, threw in the week before rankings. But that's the only thing I can think of is that it was just a mistake and they did not re-rank that weight. So
right. So the way it should be is Starachi should be 1. Okay, he's undefeated.
Yep.
Massa should be 2. He's only lost to Starachi. Labriola's 3 because he just beat Kemmer.
Yep.
I think there's an argument now for Kemmer or Hidley for 4-5. Honestly, it doesn't matter because they're going to meet in the quarterfinals if all these results hold. Okay.
Yep.
And then Mekhi is 6. Ethan Smith is 7. So, but what's interesting is if you go down to 8, there's Lout. So 2 conferences have the top 8 guys.
Yeah.
So going to be really interesting there. Let's go back up, kind of talk about some of the results that have changed things and the team scores. So again, I think if you take Hildebrandt down to, I'd say Sam Latona, and again, this is kind of nuts. So like, I don't understand. I mean, I understand Latona's not had a great season, but he just beat Camacho pretty convincingly. And literally, I mean, 3 of the sources have it the right order where
I think David.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that people need to know about Latona is I think he's finally got his weight under control. And I think he can go out and perform now after an hour weigh-in. And that's dangerous because he was the number 2 seed at nationals last year. He's capable of being in that top 5. So
yeah,
I think
he's
it's an
interesting guy. Yeah.
Yep.
So here's the weird thing though. I don't think he can move very high in the seeding at nationals because there's nobody above him except Camacho that he's going to wrestle now.
Yes.
So he's kind of pinned into where he is. I'm going to make sure we're not. I guess GT will just text us when he's coming on. So not a lot of changes at 25. I mean, Ayala's back. Everybody in the Big Ten besides Suriano is beating each other. Like, it's just a mess. You know, like Barnett, Schroeder, Heinzelman, McKee, Ayala, DiAgostino. DiAgostino took a loss this weekend. Mastro lost to Prada, but Mastro's wrestling on one leg.
Yep.
So, you know, but like he can't be at 9. And I don't think he can really be at 16. Like, it just feels like some of these people are too high or low on him.
Yeah.
You know, Prada, and then you look at Prada, he's anywhere from 20 to not ranked. So like, you know, so you see some crazy things here, right? 33, not a lot of change here. I mean, really very little change in the top 12, which is kind of where all the points are, obviously. 41. Okay, so this is a weight we talked about. I think Nick Lee will be seated. Well, he should be the 1 seated Big Tens. I guess Ironman's the 2.
No, I think it'd be Rivera. He's undefeated. I have no problem. I don't think it matters between 2 and 3, except who you're going to get in the quarters. That makes a difference, obviously.
Yeah, if you look at this down the line, Duncan's the 4, Meesek's the 5, Berglund's the 6. Here comes GT. So my brother, GT, welcome. So we're talking about 141 right now. But hey, before I forget, you will probably not be with us next week because I'm guessing you'll be in Wichita for the NAIA Nationals, correct?
That is correct.
So quick congrats, Nick Mitchell, Conference Coach of the Year, Paul Reedy, Assistant Coach of the Year Conference. I heard it was a dead heat between you and him for Best Dressed Assistant Coach of the Year, or did you nose him out on that?
No official awards were given, but the people know. The people know.
The people know. Okay. I'll bet if I asked Reedy, he'd say the exact same thing. So,
100%.
and I think I saw this. You got all 12 through, right?
Yep. So national at-large bids are going out like today or tomorrow, and then I'm potentially pre-seeds will be maybe Friday, Saturday. So much to discuss.
Okay. So we're going to talk about this afterwards, but if I'm not going to even jinx it, but we have a request if the tournament goes well. So anyway, all right. So we're talking about 141 right now and the seeds there at Big Tens. And so Lee 1, Ironman 2, Rivera 3. If they go this in order, Duncan's 4. You got all those guys, Duncan 4, Meesek 5, Berglund 6, D'Amelio 7. And I want to get through this because I want to talk about Yasser Dogu, GT, which you can help us with. And then I want to talk about what's going on with guys qualifying the automatic qualifier stuff. Mark and I had a couple conversations I think were good and heated in a good way. And I think it maybe shed some light on stuff. Okay, 49. I think the big thing here is who's number 4, right? I mean, Milner, Gomez, Lovett, Andonian. Andonian beat Jared Verclaren in a crazy match. If what's crazy is if Verclaren wins that match and it was a 1-point match, Virginia beats Virginia Tech. Because that was the duel that I called for. So that was really interesting. Yaya is down at 11. He deserves to probably be there, but just an interesting season that he's that low with the guy that had such a good national tournament last year. 57, Austin O'Connor's worked his way up. I think those top 4, really the top 5 are seated or ranked absolutely correct. Big news here, Brady Berge goes down to 57. He was kind of in the round of 12 to 16 at both weights, but we were all at the Iowa Penn State duel, and it felt like Marinelli just kind of pushed him around a little bit. So, I think with, it's the same thing like, hey, if we pull David out of the lineup and move Grant down, or we better with Grant it this way to Mark it this way. I mean, you do all the combinations. I think Penn State's pretty good at knowing who their best lineup is. So this is probably ideal for them. They're going to go with Berge at 57, Edsel at 65. The interesting thing now, though, is Berge will not get an automatic qualifier at that weight class. I don't think he would have got one either way because he came in so late. So he's going to have to steal a spot, which again will lead into the next conversation. All right, 65. Wick beats Griffith again and fairly easily 6-1. Let me ask you guys this. If Wick, I think I know the answer, but if Wick wins the Pac-12 and O'Toole wins the Big 12, who's the number 1 seed at Nationals? GT, I'll go with you first.
Probably, I would say Wick, just because of the quality of wins he's had, not because O'Toole is not deserving of the number 1 seed, just, maybe hasn't got a chance to wrestle any of those guys. But if Wick goes and beats Griffith and in a bracket with Valencia, you're probably going to give him the nod. I mean, yeah. O'Toole, if he wins the Big 12s, which, still some tough, Whit Lake is still a really tough match. That would be a humongous upset at the Big 12s.
Yeah.
But I'd say Wick 1, O'Toole 2. And then I'd say the winner of the Big 10 gets the 3 seed.
So that's interesting. Okay. So if Karchlow wins the Big 10 Griffith takes second in the Pac-12, and Griffith beat Karchla head-to-head back at Vegas. So, Mark, then would it stay the same, you think, with Griffith 3, Karchla 4?
I think Griffith would get the 3 and Karchla before, yeah. Because I think they will look at the head-to-head, and his only loss is basically Griffith is to the people that are above him at the Nationals. He beat Valencia this year. He'd have to beat him again, I think. If he lost to Valencia, then yeah, I think he would probably drop down to the 4 or 5 seed at the Nationals.
Maybe the 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. So the other thing is he did lose that goofy match against Ramirez in the duel back in December.
Yeah.
So that, which we all think was a terrible call, but it's on there. The other thing is the rumor is Whitlake's out for the year, and O'Toole's best win this year is Valencia in terms of rankings. He just missed some of these guys. He beat Peyton Hall, he beat Valencia, he beat Whitlake, but he just hasn't had a chance to wrestle any of these other guys. So Wick O'Toole is a fascinating match, like who cradles the other guy first, and can they both ride each other? So, all right, 74. So GT, we talked about this. We think Win Magazine does a great job, and they just forgot to rank 174 correctly this week because they've got Kemmer at 2 and Mackay at 3. They both lost this weekend. So, but I think the overall math is right. So this is interesting. I would have thought Labriola was 2 just as it was happening. And then, but when you look at the numbers, Massa has only lost to Starachi, so he deserves to be the 2. Here's what's fascinating about this. I think this is how the Big Ten is going to be seeded. So Starachi Kemmer is a semifinal, and Kemmer Ethan Smith is a quarterfinal. And then Massa Labriola is the other semifinal. So I think most of us a month ago would have thought, well, Starachi and Kemmer are going to meet the Big Ten finals. They can't meet the Big Ten finals. So next week we'll make some picks, but that's really interesting to look at. GT, the other thing that we talked about was Hively, Lewis, and Loud have all beat each other. You know, A beat B, B beat C, C beat A. So you're a guy that goes into seeding meetings. How do you decide that?
What a nightmare. That's how I would start it off in the seating meeting. Hey guys, this is just a bona fide nightmare. Here's how we're going to try to wade through this, right?
Margin of victory doesn't count, right? Like it's not like if you pinned me and I majored Mark and Mark teched you, none of that matters, right?
Right. And I think, I mean, you can't put like Lout above Lewis, but you can put him above Hidley. You know, it's like it's, you know, the 1 beat, then 1 here. I mean, they're really going to have to get into the weeds on that one. And once again, it's all going to be based on the coaches, right? So if someone wants to fight for the 2 for whatever reason, or fight for being the number 1 guy, they're going to have to sort that out.
You're going to have to fight for the 1. The 2 and 3 don't matter. You know, but you got to fight for the 1. Like
how they would say is like, hey, I want that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like if Coleman Scott goes into the meeting, he's like, hey, give me the 3. I don't care. I want Mackay, or, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There could be some particular reason why they want to have a style matchup, or they feel like I have a better shot at beating this guy, so they can either play a little dumb, or whoever it is that is the big dog in the room can suggest something and everybody falls in line with that. And then it doesn't necessarily have to be a numbers driven process. They can just say, hey, yeah, we're going to give Mackay 1, Hidley 2, Lout 3.
Now, Grant, I know when they do these conference seedings, because I've been in a lot of seeding meetings myself, but I mean, a little bit of it is common sense.
Right.
And you get to these 3 guys, Loud has 4 losses during the year. Mackay has 1. Hidley has 1. I don't think this is going to be near as difficult, because I think they're going to say, hey, look, guys, we've all beat each other, okay? Now we got to look at your body of work for the year, not just in the conference, but total body of work. We got 4 losses here. We got 1 and 1. We got to go with these 2 guys that are 1 and 1. Who won between them? Hidley won. He's number 1. Lewis is 2.
There it is.
Love-
GT Mark Ostrander, the voice of reason, solved the whole thing for us in 30
That
seconds.
makes sense. I mean,
No,
sometimes
it's
you gotta
exactly
use
right.
Common sense.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Grant, do you
Okay.
agree with that?
I agree, Mark. I think it is body of work, but yes, there are some technicalities if somebody wants to get into it with another coach in the room, be like, hey, well, I beat that guy. It's like, well, hey, you got 4 losses. These guys only have 1 to each other. We're separating those guys out. Your guy is the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's crazy because Loud has the biggest win of the 3 between them because he has a fall, but that doesn't count. That's what's interesting. It doesn't count. Okay, 84. The top 4 are really steady. Truex has been around, in that top 8 all year. Romero steady. This is an interesting way. Cochran has kind of, jumped into the rankings from the beginning of the year. Gears fallen. Hunter Bolin wrestled Hidley 2-1, and he lost on that illegal crackback point. It was 1-1, and that again, that was huge. If he wins that match for Virginia Tech, NC State's a lot closer. So that should be a rematch in the ACC finals. I mean, Bolin will have Kane, but I feel like this 97. I don't even think we have enough time to talk about 97 this week. Let's just say that I feel like all the way down to like J.I. Yellow could place at nationals. So and that's at 17. He was one of only 2 guys to medal at U23s. And part of how good a guy is or a woman or girl is, how many other people medal. If everybody medaled, it's like maybe the tournament wasn't that tough. But if only 2 medaled on the men's side, that's pretty steep. Braxton Amos is just laying low in the weeds to make Mark's pick look really good in the postseason. He's just chilling down there.
Yeah.
Just chilling down there, 21. Wait.
Right where I want him, David, right now, right where I want him.
Yeah.
Right outside the top echelon. Surprise everybody.
He's a few out of the outside top echelon.
Well, see, I'm thinking about buying a dartboard and putting names on it. And there's 20 spots on a dartboard. If you've ever played darts in a bar, David, there's 20 dots, 20 spots. I'm going to put the top 20 guys. Now he's 21. I'm going to put him right at the bullseye. And I'm going to throw a dart, and whoever it hits, I'm picking to win the national tournaments because that's what this weight is right now.
There you go. All right. Heavyweight, really important matches this past weekend. Schultz beat Jordan Wood. That's gigantic. Flo has Schultz at 5, but everybody else has him at 2 or 3. I think he's going to end up being the 2 or 3 if he can win the Pac-12s. That match went in overtime. So that's important to watch. Okay, GT, Yasser Dogu. So here's the men's roster. Lay this out for us fairly quickly if you can. This is a ranking tournament, right? There's 4 ranking tournaments. Am I right? And that this is the first of 4, and this helped determine separation or seeding at the World Championships?
Yeah, basically what the ranking series is that when you're at your weight class, you're going to get benefited points based off of you being at that specific weight. If you go outside of that specific weight, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
So if you're the best guy in the world and you've been wrestling 65 all year, and then you decide you want to go up to 70 because you can't make the weight anymore, you start over at 0. So you can be the best guy in the world, Olympic champion, you up to 70, you're like just a general guy that's in the bracket at that point. What this is doing is that it will then give you degrees of separation for when Worlds is seeded, which is now going to go to top 8.
And balanced bracketing.
Okay. So with this, it's essentially for a sports person. These are like the majors in golf. So they're trying to put some attention on specific events globally. Yasser Do, the Pelicone, your Regan, other things that are going to be ranking basically the masters of wrestling, the US Open, all that kind of stuff is what the UWW is trying to execute so that there's more media attention on specific events, even though the other events are still cool, but you try to get the best guys all at one location.
Yeah. So your analogy is a good one. I think an analogy that makes just as much sense as yours, instead of jumping from 65 to say 70, is jumping from 70 in non-Olympic weight to 74. Because a lot of these guys are going to try to qualify. Like in America, if you can medal at the Olympic weight, you sit in any weight, you sit in the finals, but then you can literally control the weight. Like like Gilman, Snyder, these guys right now, they're controlling the weight, in terms of not having to go through the qualifier. So here's our men's lineup. Nico, DeShazer, Henderson, McKenna, J.O., J.G., Schnalte, LaValle, Burrows, Marsteller, McFadden, Baby Markey, Colin Moore, Quiz, and Zilmer, Fernside, Golston, Parrish, Jakara, Mirabella, Michaela, Kilty, Bruntel, who just won another tournament, Velty, Snowflake, Piercy, Francis, and Bell. And then here's the schedule. So this actually starts today and is on Flow. So great explanation, GT. All right, so this is the last subject. We got about 10 minutes on this, so I don't know how deep we'll get into it. So this past weekend, there were some 1-second matches at a couple different tournaments or duels. And the complaint is that it's match fixing, that it's agreed upon ahead of time. I don't think anybody would disagree that matches should not be decided before people walk on the mat. Okay. I'm going to go bigger picture on this. The whole reason anybody's doing anything like this is to get an automatic qualifier spot. Okay, to get an automatic qualifier spot, and I'm looking at my phone because I have this date on here, you have to have a 700 or better winning percentage. You have to have a top 30 coaches rank. You have to be top 30 in the RPI. And you cannot get an RPI without 15 matches. So one of the trends that we were talking about was in high school, there's more and more matches. When I won state, I wrestled 36 matches, now 50 to 55. I think Aiden Riggins had like almost 60 matches this year. You guys could correct me, but it was over 50. And in college, it used to be, I remember my senior year, I wrestled 45 matches. There'll be guys this year that win nationals like a 25-0, something like that. So part of it is the problem of scheduling. If you don't schedule a bunch of matches and then a kid gets sick, they miss Vegas, they miss Scuffle, a tournament gets COVIDed, a tournament gets snowed out. Now you're struggling to get to 15 matches. I know this specifically. I want to make sure people understand this. The Arizona State Lehigh matches where Arizona State took the 1-second wins, Lehigh requested those matches, not Arizona State. Lehigh needed to get to 15 wins, and they were going to go to Drexel and wrestle in one of those last chance tournaments. They're like, can we just wrestle you guys and do this? GT, you're coaching. In the NAI, it used to be that you could qualify for nationals the first meet of the year, right? It was like swimming. If you hit a certain time, like I remember when the Lindenwood Open, when that was an NAI school, like if you placed in the top whatever at Lindenwood Open, you were in nationals. Now you have to go through the national qualifying tournament, right? I mean, that's it. Then your overall body of work is seeding or separation. Mm-hmm. So you're in this though, right? Mark kind of sees it one way. I kind of see it the other way. And I don't think either one of us disagree with the other guy. We're just more on one side or the other. What do you think about this whole situation?
I think in certain scenarios where kids can't get enough matches in, and you got like maybe a few situations where maybe a kid's been hurt or COVID or whatever it may be, and you're trying to get stuff done at the end of the year, it's like cramming for a test that you've had all season to figure out. Like, wrestling is a very, very long season, in my opinion. There's plenty of opportunities to go get matches in if you want to go get matches in. So to get to 15 matches is a very, very low collegiate bar to get over. Like, I think and once again, a lot of the Division I schedules are not Saturday tournaments, but there's tons of Saturday tournaments that those guys can go participate in at the Division I, Division II, Division III level that would then count for their RPI. Or
only the D1 matches count, just so people know that. But I get your point is well taken. Yeah.
Yeah. So like all of that would then get into a bracket where then you would be able to get to see more individuals, right? So as a coach, you have to put your guys in the best possible position in order to meet the requirements in order to get allocations to head into the postseason. If there is a scenario where they need to have that and you run out of time and whatever it is, the last chance qualifier is nothing you can get to, okay, I get it. But it does have a poor look to it, in my opinion.
Optics are terrible, right?
the optics of it are very bad. Now it looks like you're doing all of the bad things, which, it looks like, throwing matches and all of these other things that basically could be occurring, maybe not occurring, maybe trying to get to this, maybe trying to get more allocations, whatever it may be. So my opinion is that if that is the sole reasoning behind it is to get allocations and get to the 15 match limit, and the kid's been hurt, okay, like I can get behind that. I can get behind this guy didn't have as much opportunities, so on and so forth. But if your guy has just been in the weeds, not being the guy, maybe being the guy, then, you start to use him late in the season.
Or out for disciplinary reasons, right? Like that's a super valid, hey, just because you screwed up earlier in the year, we had to suspend you. We shouldn't be making it up this way. Yeah.
But there are opportunities along the way, in my coaching opinion, that like you need to go get matches in. Like there's not one kid on my collegiate wrestling team with less than 15 matches, even if they were hurt or not. Like you're going to go get matches in regardless. Even if you go 0-2, we're going to give you enough opportunities.
Yeah, you're going to go to 8 tournaments.
Go 16 if you so choose.
Right.
Or we're going to have duels or extra matches and things of that nature that would then qualify for that. So I think it's kind of on the coaches too, to make sure that those guys get the opportunities that they need to be able to compete. But I do understand in scenarios where it's applicable, getting to your 15 match threshold.
So Marco, I know where you are in this because we talked privately, but go ahead and tell everybody what you think. What do you think?
Well, I just think it gives wrestling a black eye when things come out and people don't have the whole picture. For example, David, I did not have the whole picture when I got the information. We had talked. I did not know that Arizona State did not ask for these matches. Their kids didn't need them. They already had their, obviously McGee is ranked 5th or 4th in the country. I couldn't understand why he was out there getting a 1-second injury default when it didn't make any sense. So it makes more sense now that you have told me what happened. But you got to remember, it gives wrestling a bad look. But let's be honest. Last year it was Iowa State, correct, Grant? They had the last chance tournament, and they had guys wrestling their own teammates and laying down for them, and got guys with enough matches that they could qualify for nationals. How many people are talking about it this year that Iowa State did that last year? It was a big thing last year. Everybody was ticked off. Now Iowa State won the Big 12s. Nobody's talking about it. They don't need to do it this year. It's just.
Well, they also changed the rules so that matches against your teammates don't count. So I mean, they also made a.
Yeah, and maybe the NCAA has to change some rules. I think that's the easiest way to look at it. What these coaches did is not illegal by the terms of the rules. It looks bad to the people from the outside looking in, but it's not illegal. And I guess if you're going to let them do it, I wish they'd change the rules that they couldn't do it, to be honest with you. But like I said, David, we had talked also, what if we put our guy out and go tell him to get pinned in the first 10 seconds?
Yeah, that's yeah. So I'm going to kind of go bigger view. Let me start by saying both of you guys, I don't disagree with either thing you said. Second of all is this. People are going to always coach to the rules, right? Like if me keeping one toe in bounds when I'm riding on top is getting riding time, we both know I'm stalling, but nobody calls it. And like, I'll be on a leg, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, and then I just pull my leg out of bounds and it's not stalling. So people are going to always coach to the rules, and these are the rules. The second thing is this. I'm not a big fan of saying something screwed up without having a solution. I don't know how to fix this. So I don't want to be like, well, this is all wrong. You got to fix it. Like, well, what do you think, David? Like, I have no idea, but you got to fix it. Like, that's the kind of noise I hate. I hate it when people say, well, your event's bad. Well, how do I make it better? Well, I don't know. Make it better. Like, I don't want to talk to you. That's negative energy. A couple of these things, I have the rubric up here. Head to head is really simple. Common opponent is very simple. Qualifier placement is very simple. Those are mathematical things. They don't take any common sense. Like in the UFC, somebody can be 10-0 and the other person can be 7-3 and lost to the number 1 and 2, 3 guys in the world. And people on the outside will think the 10-0 guy is better when they're not. They might have fought the 7 dwarfs and 3 stooges. So, but at least these are things. Coaches rank, I could argue with you all day why the coaches shouldn't be doing rankings. Their job isn't to look what everybody's doing. Half of them are calling other people for help. There's a lot of stories about ranking votes being traded. You help my guy, I'll help your guy. Okay. I want to point this out. The guys that took the losses this weekend, it actually hurt their winning percentage and hurt their RPI. They were just trying to get to enough matches to have an RPI because that's one of the criteria. Probably the biggest example of when the NCAA really didn't follow their own formula was when Snyder was a senior. And GT, you would know this better than anybody because he was wrestling in all those international tournaments. There's one tournament where I can't even remember, you know which one it is. He went, took like a 20-hour flight back and wrestled Kuhn like the next day. Like it, and went into like overtime. He looked exhausted. And, you know, he's in phenomenal shape. So I think there's an argument to be made that coaches ranks, maybe you replace it with sources that actually do rankings. But again, like we just pointed out, one source this week didn't pay attention to all the results. I think you could argue the certain number of matches for an RPI maybe gets lowered, but then you're going to see even less matches. And I think what we're trying to see are more matches, you know, not less matches. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that in that situation, the people that requested it were actually on the right side of it. Like they took the losses. And I think it changes everything. One of the other things Mark and I talked about, GT, was, and he talked about it briefly. If I'm going to lose to you and I go, okay, I'm just going to shake your hand and then it's over. Or, hey, can you hit me in a fireman's carry and pin me? And nobody knows. They just look at the stats. And then in the book, it says GT by fall 9 seconds. That probably changes a lot of the problems. I mean, it's exactly the same thing, but people just don't know. Like people see 1 second and actually you could just dance around for 2 minutes and then you hit me in a fireman's. You could say GT by fall in 2 minutes. How to game the system is not the goal, but we've all coached. Like if they know you're not, side headlock position used to not be stalling. So you tell guys, man, get a side headlock and ride it till the stalemate, especially in the 30-second ride out. GT, they changed the overtime to 2 minutes this year. This changed how you coach. It changed how Nick Mitchell approached things. It changed how Paul Reedy and Grant Henderson and every other good coach in the country looked at this. Like, it's just interesting. I'm going to probably try to come up with a solution in the off season. Probably going to talk to you guys about it because I don't like to be a guy that says this is wrong, but I don't know what's right. So I'll start sounding like a country music song. If podcasting with you is wrong, I don't want to be right. So anyway, so we'll get into that more. The other crazy results of the week that we kind of touched on, it didn't really affect the rankings, is Grant Willits pinned Real Woods in kind of a touch fall situation. So that'll change the Pac-12 seeding, but assuming Woods wins that match, that's where that number 4 seed is all up in the air. It could be Woods, could be the winner of the Big 12, could be like a Stevan Misick. If, you know, it could be if somebody finishes in that top 3 at the Big 10 and knocks one of those guys out, I could definitely see those top 3 guys now be in the top 4. So I will have Mark have the last word. GT, we want to wish your guys good luck. Good luck to all the state tournaments this weekend. We will say good luck. Mark and I will next weekend, but we won't see you, GT. So good luck to you and your crew. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. Grant, hope you guys do well. Hope everybody stays safe. There's going to be some great tournaments, not this weekend, obviously, but next weekend, and we'll be able to preview those on the next weighing in.
Yep. Real quick, don't forget next Friday, live show from Elgin Park, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Big 12 preview show. Come out, shake hands. I'll be wearing Nike because that's what I do. For GT and Mark, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching, listening, and sharing. See y'all next week.